From the harbor to the high rise, from the boardroom to the beeline. Pull a seat for some daylight. Kenji on the headline. Hey! East Coast insights talk that truth. Big city questions searching for proof. Stories from the ground, from the booth to the roof. East Coast insights, hey! Right here with you. East Coast insights talk that truth. Big city questions searching for proof.
Yo, yo, yo. Hello, everybody. What's up? A beautiful Tuesday once again. How do you do? Welcome to the show, 1,000-Year Plan. I know it's confusing at the East Coast Insights track on, but guess what? I just love it so much, but it will change. Don't you worry. 1,000-Year Plan is coming soon, El Traco. But once again, I'm just going to recap real quick before I get my guest on today. I've got Mr. Rory Orr from Orr Code jumping on back again, giving us an insight and conversation today into self-managed super funds. I know it might not seem like the most interesting conversation, but I think if the conversation is really coming around how are we thinking about our money right now, our future, where are we putting the responsibility, to someone else to manage it, for ourselves to manage it, how are we sort of looking into the larger economic picture and what can we do about it? And I think this is what excites me about this conversation today I'm always a kind of sovereignty guy, I'm always trying to be, not too susceptible to the external environment as much as I'll always be. But my question is always, how can I improve my position? How can I make sure that I look after my future, my finances? How can I make sure that I'm doing the best for myself, my family, and my community and members around me? And so this is part of why I'm fascinated about this conversation. And I personally just love talking to Rory about how he's been on this journey himself, how he's helped other people out with this journey as well. And, demystifying maybe some of the process of what's been going on as well. And with the 1,000-Year Plan, I spoke about in the AI roundtable last time that some of these core pillars for me is, freedom through faith, focus, and fortitude. We're here to be the movers, not the moved. Simplify to amplify, right? How do you sort of amplify your impact? How do we be a mover, shifting the pawns across this chessboard instead of being thrown asunder by the winds of our environments at all times? And so, without further ado, I'm going to bring on the wonderful and great Mr. Rory Orr to share with us, like I said, some beautiful insights of what he's been learning along the way.
Very nice. Thanks, bud. Seems like a Wizard of Oz intro.
Thank you.
Very nice. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no worries, man. And just as it, because I find it, and like, I think beyond financial conversations of metrics, numbers, and organization, I think if you go beyond it, that's where I'm motivated. That's where I'm sort of drawn, is like, what does that mean for me to take custody? What does it mean to even learn more about what is the future of my money, right? Of like, how am I investing? How do I grow? We've talked about inflation a little bit. What's happening with the next coming years? More unpredictability with the markets is only going to be rising more and more. So it's going to kind of come down to what can we do? And with that, maybe if you could start off with, self-managed super, how does it sit inside of your domain, your life right now? What has the journey been for you to, I guess, increase your understanding about it?
Yeah, cool. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't sort of prepare too many notes for today. I was just going to freestyle it and see where we go with this one,
That's
which is
all right.
good.
We'll go well with it.
Yeah, well, what got me interested, and I think there's a parallel here to a lot of other people, was my journey discovering Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I've seen this in myself and with a lot of other people as well. It's like it changed the mindset of a lot of people from wanting to spend money all the time to all of a sudden almost an obsession to save money because, with inflation and the rest of it, obviously our money gets eaten away. I did an interesting post about that yesterday regarding the fuel situation at the moment. Now the world oil price hasn't really moved much from back in 2022, but everything's up higher due to inflation and the money printing. But yeah, I've seen it with a lot of people where they go, all of a sudden they switch from having to, just wanting to spend money recklessly to going, well, hang on a second. Now I've got this thing that if I put some spare cash into, it's going to grow, and it's actually going to grow pretty steadily. I've been watching it now and I'm excited about it. And all of a sudden they were foregoing expenditures on certain things. I won't buy that surfboard. I won't go on that trip yet or whatever, because if I save it and wait another 12 months, I can buy 5 surfboards or whatever, or have a heap left over. So that was kind of my sort of journey into self-managed super as well. At the time, I was just looking around in my life going, what other capital have I got access to that I can put into this thing? And superannuation was one of those things. I was like, okay, great. Okay, I need to start this journey. What do I do? Spoke to my accountant. Figured that all out. Got the process wasn't as crazy as what most people and probably I myself were thinking at the time, which I'm happy to get into now. And then, so basically piled most of it into that, as well as some precious metals and other things. And it's really changed my family's lives. Like originally it was just me and my mum actually that I set up the super fund for. And she was staring down the barrel of probably still being working now, at least probably part-time. She's 73. She was able to retire on time. She would only her super would have been gone by now for sure. She'd just be on the pension. But now she's actually got the wealth to do the things that she would like to do, and she's got the freedom around that. So that's been something I've tried to do for more people over time, is help them get to that point as well, because past generations seems we're wanting to build a bit of a legacy for their children and future generations, and that feels like it's slipping away to a lot of people. So it doesn't have to be that way. We can grab onto it. So just to get back to your question, I guess the process I went through was basically, and everyone else needs to do first, is contact your accountant. They do most of the legwork. All you really have to do is decide what you want to call your super fund, and they'll set up the rest. They'll set up the trust. They'll set up the company structure, everything that you need to do. They'll do all the paperwork. You can usually also pay for their fees once your superannuation money comes over into your self-managed super from wherever it is now. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you have to get a couple of grand together. And it's only that. It's going to probably cost you that $2 to $3 grand mark to set it up, and probably about half that each year to do the tax return and the audit and that side of things as well. So it's not super complicated, but it just takes a bit of time. There'll be a bit of time in setting it up with the accountant, getting the documents from them, taking them to your bank, setting up a bank account in the name of your super fund, which will then just be tied to your other internet banking accounts. You just have the same login. You'll see another account there. Then you contact the superannuation fund where your money is now, get it sent to your bank account, and then that's it. That's the process. Then you got your money, and then obviously the bigger question is what we're doing with Orcode is, okay, so what do you do then? But that's basically the process. It's not as complicated as what most people are thinking, or as expensive.
Yeah. And can you share into, obviously, that process from self-managed super into this account, but in terms of like ATO, do they say anything? Do they advise you to do certain things or take things into mind whilst doing it? They offer their opinions.
They do, yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about this before the call, and there's probably going to be some people that maybe listen to me on this chat and go, well, this guy's a bit of a dick. I don't agree with anything he's saying. I'm not going to follow any of the advice he's saying. And I get it. Like, there's all sorts of people, right, with all sorts of different risk profiles and whatever. Yeah. And I mean, I was, I've always been happy to be a risk taker, I guess, and trying to see what the newest things are and get my head around it, not doing it recklessly, but still understanding the processes. And fortunately, when I set mine up, there wasn't this big wave of people setting up self-managed super like has been over the last few years. So it was relatively straightforward. My accountant didn't really say anything to me. Between me and my mum, we only had like low 6-figure number anyway. It wasn't huge, although since then I've watched a bit of a transition now with some of my friends and family members setting theirs up. They do come up with, obviously the system, to go back, I think we should have all been educated much better, right? What your segue into the start of this chat was like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. We need to keep learning about this sort of stuff. I think if we had a system that was truly here to set up self-sovereign, powerful individuals and families, we would be taught about this stuff throughout our schooling. You know, we come out of there fully armed to attack this world. Instead, we don't really have any of the tools. We don't have any of the armor to go out there, and we're all just kind of lost. And then we're taught to believe that, oh, well, this is just for those handful of people. They're the experts in this field, and we just have to hand over all of our decision-making and our money and all the rest of it to them, which I don't think is the case. But there's also a bit of fear-mongering at play at the moment as well. So this transition is happening more and more. The ATO provides guidance to accountants when people are wanting to set up a self-managed super fund. And I've watched the number increase over time. You know, I had a few friends years ago saying, oh, they're recommending we don't do it unless we got 250 grand. Because, you know, the cost, like I said, it's going to be $2,000, so it's going to eat away at that, you know, that so fast or whatever. I said, that's okay. It's just a recommendation, right? Listen to the words they're saying. There's no law saying you can't do this. You can absolutely do this. So respectfully say to your accountant, cool, I hear you, but I would like to proceed with this anyway. And now the latest couple of examples of this I've had with friends has been like they're trying to push for the 500,000 number now with people. Oh, unless you've got 500,000 in there.
I wouldn't
risky.
recommend.
We don't recommend that you do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not worth it. Oh,
Yeah, basically, you're a bit too stupid to manage your own money. Give it to these guys that lose huge chunks of it as well when there's a crash, and take no responsibility for it as well. So, yeah, people will come up against a bit of resistance. But like I said, if you are fully able to do it, so that's all. That's my advice to everyone. Is always like, okay, cool. So tell your accountant, thank you, I hear you. However, we wish to proceed anyway.
And I think that's sort of like the theme here is, and it's funny how many times, you know, with the theme of these days, you have to be like, this is what's going to get me cancelled. It's like saying you're an adult, you know, like all the sort of things you say. It's just like you need to make your own decisions with your life, you know, like you can take responsibility. Whereas like, and it's kind of funny because like as above, so below, it seems like our, you know, the whole oil thing going on, the fuel thing going on in Australia is almost like a representation of like, we haven't been told, or we haven't have a system to self-custody, to have a more sovereign like system set up for us individually. We haven't been educated on how to, you know, look after our own finances to grow effectively. We sort of become reliant on the system, which I am so guilty of right now, right? And I think this is the demystification that I think, which I appreciate. And like you said, I think that's all it is like you can do it, and it's not as difficult as you think, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they'd like to steer people away from it for their own reasons. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made if they're managing your money, and huge fees to be made, and then kickbacks to political parties and all the rest of it, which is just part of the game that's been set up and until we're able to build something better. But yeah, that's kind of the way it is at the moment. But each person has the power to go for this. So, but like I said before, like some people just won't have the risk profile for it as well, which is fair enough. I get it. If they're just like, oh, look, I'm fully confident that I'd prefer to just give it to these guys and look, at least I can rest and sleep at night or whatever. But I'd recommend for people that are on the fence, that are like, oh, look, mate, I've got a fear around the fact that I could stuff this up and I could lose money and I'm not sure what I'm doing and all the rest of it. Like, but there's something else in me that's saying, oh, you should pay attention to this thing, or it is something that maybe you could do. I would suggest start learning about it. You know, like that's what we're trying to do with All Code, is educate people with the things that they weren't educated throughout their childhood and schooling and whatever else with. You know, not trying to do a sales pitch for that, but like, come through us or go through anywhere else. Like there are places out there to educate yourself on how these things work and what sort of things you can put your money in so that you are actually growing your wealth and outpacing inflation and outpacing the regular stock markets and the rest of it.
And do you reckon that's been some of that trigger where like up until now, maybe people haven't felt the pinch as much, or like over the last 10 years that people be like, yeah, pretty good.
I think so. Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, well, that was part of I think I mentioned it on one of our other calls, but like in 2008, 2009 GFC, it was like from one statement to the next of my super, I'd lost 35 or 40%. I can't remember the exact number now, but like some significant chunk of money. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? No, where's that gone? I'd never thought to ask that question before. Where is that gone? What else? What should I have done? You know, what could I have done? I don't want to keep repeating this same mistake and just keep getting rinsed every few years. So
And when you say
But
gone, as in like it was like in terms of like inflationarily gone, or as in like just the fund
the
lost?
balance dropped, yeah, like 35% or whatever it was from one statement to the next. I think they were like biannual statements or whatever they were back then. So yeah, like imagine that, like basically more than a third of the money was
Yeah,
just
wow.
disappeared, just smoked. So yeah, it's not a nice feeling. I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there that have
Yep.
had the same as well. So yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. It's funny actually. Like I was even on LinkedIn over the last couple of days, I've seen a couple of ads pop up from JP Morgan on my feed, probably because of the stuff that I'm looking at and interested in. But trying to steer people away from putting their money into cash at the moment, whether they're not specifically mentioning super funds, but just investments in general, because I think there's a wave of people that are like, we see something dangerous coming, we think we should seek safety. They obviously need buyers, right? If them and their, the elite want obviously sell for the last 6 months plus. I don't know the exact time frame, but more than 90% of all stock markets trades, especially in the US markets, have been selling from insiders. So executive teams, boards of directors, and all the rest of it, they've been selling stocks. So they need people to be able to buy those stocks. Otherwise the price will just crash, right? So that's where this media and commercial machine comes into play as well. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting at the moment. Like I've seen it pop up a couple of times now. It's like, oh yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made that people could be seeking some safety in cash at the moment, and for them to be sort of recklessly going against that, it's sort of silly. They were actually claiming that on almost any time frame that they didn't specify which time frame, a 60-40 stock and bond portfolio has outperformed cash. But I bet if they go back and look at how that portfolio performed in the GFC, for example, versus cash, I think there'd be a clear winner, right? So yeah, you got to be careful when you're hearing these claims made as well.
And for those that don't know, when you say cash, it's like actual like cash, like liquid cash in terms of.
Well, yeah, it can be. It can literally be like liquidating everything and just having cash sitting in your bank account, or it can be a fund that's basically majority cash based, basically the lowest risk. It depends on your risk profile, but like lowest risk possible. Or it doesn't have to be all of it. Maybe you could just go, look, I don't see the need to jump all of my investments at the moment, but maybe I should pull back and sell 30% or 50% of it into cash just to seek some safety, and let's see what happens this year with the world, with all of this turmoil that's going on, and just let some of that blow over again and come back to a time where the central banks are more supportive of markets again. Liquidity is rising in the system. It's kind of the opposite of what's been happening recently and what's happening now. Liquidity has been drawn out.
Liquidity is coming out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I believe, we're still going to see more carnage this year. But on the other side of that, there'll be great opportunities as well. So that's what we're kind of trying to teach people as well. Of like, there's on the other side of this, it's a different. Like you can take the road of betting against markets even as well, which I think we've talked about maybe on a previous chat.
Bit, yeah.
So you can actually short markets. If you think markets are going to go down, you can actually make money as a market crashes, which is crazy. But obviously risky, hard to do the timing of that and whatever. Some people might be interested in that. I like following that, but I've been doing it for a long time. But another way to play it is just like what we're talking about as well. If you just, instead of just riding that down, if you just take a portion of your fund into cash, that's going to just maintain its value. And then you wait for the whole riding down, and you wait for it to bottom and start potentially turning back again. And you're seeing a bit more supportive things happening in financial markets, like I said, from the central banks and other players. Then buying back in, you're going to be able to buy back all the stuff that you sold plus more. So you'll have more stuff for the next run. So you'll be way better positioned for the next bull market.
How does it play in with like capital gains taxes if it's all in? Does that sometimes like balance out your money? Because I know some people, like even my hesitancy sometimes to be like sell the asset. I'm like, do I win out? I haven't been done the math, like should I, or do I just hold it and it's going to even out later anyway?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a factor. Also timing as well, right? Like here it's the financial year, July to June. So there's thoughts around when do you sell things, how much do you sell at different times or whatever. There's definitely the capital gains play to come in, but when you're staring down the barrel of a potential decent drop, I think it's something worth paying attention to. And then on the other side, like I said, it's not like the capital gains is due straight away as well. So, you still got that potential to buy low, ride higher. And then once that bill comes due, you'll be able to pay it much easier than you would have been able to before anyway.
True. And what's been like some of the sentiment you've seen of people, because I know you're having a lot of conversations that are trying to shift to self-managed super. Can you see like, I guess, those lower risk investments people are making? Like, I know there's precious metals that people invest in, like, digital assets is a whole different ball game. You kind of really got to know what you're doing there. But because you're coming further into the commodities thing, right? Of like, they have longer cycles.
Exactly. That's where we're recommending most people start. There are, obviously, it depends, like I said, with each individual person. I've got some friends that are like, look, man, I'm happy to take a bit more risk. Can you help me execute some of this stuff? I like some of these other things you're talking about, and that's cool. And I'll have that conversation with them. But yeah, on the commodity side of things, that we're at the early stages of the commodities bull market. And during that time, like if you go back through past cycles, they're decade-long cycles, slow moving, but large moves as well. So I think over the next 5 years or so, we're going to have a boom in majority of commodities, if not all. Basically because there's been a supply issue with so many of them for various reasons too. We're seeing the supply side with oil at the moment, oil and gas and fertilizer and all that sort of stuff, obviously because there's been an event. But even without that event, a lot of commodities get underinvested in when the technology stocks are booming and all the capital is flowing that way. Some of these other things get a bit neglected. So there's supply issues that build up over time, and it's not easy to just switch the supply on with all these things. So, it takes years generally. It takes years to grow new trees. It takes years to get uranium out of the ground and get it to a point where they can start using it to generate energy. It'll take years for some of these oil refineries and all this other infrastructure over in the Middle East to get repaired and come back online and be operational again. So it's when there's these issues with supply and demand's not necessarily going away, or even if demand still might take a short hit, like demand can still go down, but if supply is going down faster, prices will still go up. So there's a fantastic opportunity with commodities at the moment. A lot of people have already been interested since we've seen gold and silver obviously having their run recently, and then now oil's been having its run as well. But people should also then look forward to, okay, we're already seeing this huge hole get punched in the world supply of commodities for fertilizer at the moment. So what's that going to do for agricultural commodities over the next couple of years? I think there's an argument to be made that the prices of a lot of those are going to go much, much higher. So it just takes a little bit of pressure off, right? The way I've been sort of helping people with the oil side, recently is the fact that, look, you're probably staring down the barrel of having to pay extra at the pump. But if you're able to invest some money, whether it's in oil or in some of these other commodities, and you're making more than you're having to pay extra at the pump, you're in a better position. Like how nice would that feel? And you're not having to say to the kids, look, sorry, you can't have that new soccer gear this year, or you can't, you don't have to go without those things because you just don't have the money. So there's like real world consequences and real world motivations. I think I'm probably trying to tap into with people of like, it doesn't have to feel powerless or helpless in these situations. There's always things that you can be doing to make money, and I think you can make it faster than what you'd lose it otherwise if you just sat on your hands.
And this is why I just brought that thing up that you shared. And I think this comes down to, for me as well, like how do you become a mover, And this is like, because to me, when like, a few years ago, like when the system largely moved my ecosystem of my personal life, right? Things happen in the larger global scale. I felt very moved and not moved like by art, but as in like, I was thrown from one side to the other because I was still very subject to it. And I just remember hearing that in my head. I'm like, okay, I want to be a mover, not the moved, right? I want to be making moves in this world. I want to be a bit more calculated because like up until then, I didn't care about money, but it was just like, I'll be fine. And usually I was, right? Like things come when I need it sort of, but more so with these markets. And I think I'm just going to share this because like, this is what you sort of put up. I think I like what this sort of like was representing with the image you shared, because like the price from, yeah, like 5 years ago, it's kind of coming back up into 2026. But then, like you said, what we pay at the pump is drastically higher than it was 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was making the point with that post, is like the price on the market was around probably $10 cheaper a barrel than what it was there in 2022. But the price at the pump is about 20% dearer right now. So why? And that's what they keep telling us, right? It's just these global factors, and it's what's happening over there, and it's out of our hands and all the rest of it. But I don't believe that's true, because the other chart that I posted there as well was the Australian money supply, which shows an over 20% increase in that same time frame, which pretty closely correlates to
This one,
the price increase in the retail. Yeah, exactly, in the retail price. So you're looking at, even if you assume that the oil price on the market today is exactly the same as what it was in 2022 from that previous chart, why isn't the price at the pump the same? You know, it's, yes, you know, you could argue, okay, so the inflation over time, but this is a direct reason for the inflation that we see, like this crazy money printing that just goes on and on and on and on and just fleeces everybody without them even realizing it's an inflation tax.
and can you just talk into, like, and for the listeners out there, I've just shared a chart of what Rory posted the other day. But can you talk into this? What is it looking at? What is it showing? You know, like, it's talking. I guess it's got how many $1 billion in AUD is circulating in the economy over time. Is that what it is?
Yeah, basically. But yeah, a simple way to think about it is that, just like the money supply, how much money there is in supply in Australia. There are other sources as well, but this is the kind of main one. So if you look at this compared to the other chart with the oil, so mid 2022, for example, there was $2.8 trillion floating around, and now there is, you know, what's the number, like up towards that 3.5 trillion. Yep. So it's gone up a lot. Like, it's gone up about 20%, the money supply in that time. This is money printing by bond creation and by the government, and money printing from the central banks mostly, and some at the retail level too. So yeah, like, this has real consequences for people as well, because I think people need to make that connection of, like, well, hang on, you're telling us it's just all about the world market prices of things. The price is actually cheaper than what it was in 2022. Why are we paying more?
And like you said, like, if you can, you know, tie it back to, I guess, that personal lens, right? Like, because fundamentally, money is just energy. Money is a medium of exchange. Money is what we use to, you know, trade goods and everything. And I think I like that lens that you shared of, like, what does this mean? Is it another, like you said, maybe a holiday, or is it maybe a bit more time, you know, that if I have this, I can shift my work week to a 5 to a 4, or, like, does that mean I could, like you said, buy that thing to make my life a little bit easier? Like, have you noticed that lands a bit better with people when they start to put that perspective into real life?
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of on the spectrum, right? I think the people that we're probably really talking to at the moment are the ones that are the movers, perhaps, like you're describing, more so. Because I think, going by history, like, I wish it wasn't this way, but, like, going by history, unfortunately, it takes a lot of pain to make most people, the majority, move. Even though everyone's got movers all around them, and people trying to talk to them and help them with different things or whatever, they don't move themselves until the pain level gets so bad that the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of moving and trying something different. So yeah, unfortunately, I think that's kind of where we're at again. A lot of people are going to suffer more this year as prices continue to go up. Like I said, there'll potentially be shortages of things. I don't know how it's going to play out, whether it's just prices are going to be a lot higher, or whether there's going to be shortages coupled with that, potentially with all this fertilizer issues we're seeing, right? Like, there's a delay with that. But if farmers aren't getting the size of crop into the ground at the moment that they were planning to, and that they're used to doing, then when it comes time to harvest, there's going to be less to harvest, going to be less making it to the shelves. And then obviously they're paying for, then you've got all the diesel stuff on the side of that as well, whereas it's more expensive, they're producing less. So the price of each thing is going to be much, much higher. So Yeah, it'd be nice to I'll just try my best to make as many people as I can come into contact with aware of that sort of stuff, so they can at least see it.
What's coming up?
Yeah, man, it's frustrating because it's like the TV and the newspaper and all the rest of it. It's like they'll just convince you of the total opposite till the last minute, right?
Oh,
And
we're all good.
and claim and then we're all in it together. Sorry, nobody could have seen this coming, but it's like, well, hang on, no, lots of people saw it coming. Lots of people started making moves. Lots of people were trying to scream and shout about it, but yeah, I don't want to keep. I mean, I've done plenty of screaming and shouting in the past, and it's really draining. I don't really try to do that too much these days. But if I can actually help people with an action, that is what feels 100%. Good to me. So if they can actually do something financially, then it's like, okay, if apples are $12 a kilogram in the supermarket, and my kids love apples, I can still buy apples. I don't have to stress about that this week. You know what I mean? Those kind of real world things is what I'm trying to help people with. And I'm still learning myself as well along the way. And nobody can predict exactly where this thing's going to go. But there's lots of signs. There's lots of signs and there's lots of possibilities of things that you can do. And when you come into a bit of a community as well, it's like another part of what we're trying to do with Orcode, bring a community together where we can all help each other and learn from each other as well. Because there'll be other people that identify things that I missed, and that can help share that in the group, and then we can discuss it and make another plan of attack, use the AI, the research tools in there to identify opportunities in the market, execute those opportunities, get out of them at the right time as well, move into the next thing at the right time. That's what kind of excites me at the moment.
For sure. And I think it's like, we don't want to be sort of fear mongering out there that all things are going to go down, but like you got to look at the problem a little bit first and foremost to find a real solution to things. But I think, even just looking at the fuel as this like example of like since COVID, the price shot up, right? And they'll call it the new normal or whatever. Like you said, crude oil sits at a certain price, but this fuel is sitting at this price. And like we're now very accustomed to 20-30% and 20-30 cent price fluctuations in fuel these days, and you're like, oh, it is just what it is now, and it's becoming, as I'm getting older, I'm not that old, but like as I get older, I start to see shifts happening more, and I was like, okay, it doesn't look like, and this is my just simpleton mind looking at it being like, it doesn't look like the world is going towards a trajectory right now where it's like, oh, this is just going to die off. It's just going to go back and everything's going to be dandy, like each day, like even if you're just scrolling on Instagram, like whether you like it or not, there's this war stuff out there, and like real or not, and how much it affects it, it's still going on. The political climate is shifting to it, right? And like you said, and this is why I have the show right now, that's why I have you on right now, because I'm trying to talk solutions more so than just rant problems. And like you said about the pain factor, I'm also like, I've gone through the pain of like, losing a lot of my money, and it's hard to consciously front load pain because I'm learning right now. I'm trying to understand, as we've spoken a lot. I'm trying to understand markets a bit more. I'm trying to understand, okay, how can I diversify? But it is hard. And, and I'm just going to say this, just to let you know, guys, I'm not sponsored by Orcode here, but it's just like, going on to a platform like yours, because like there's a lot of YouTube channels out there, right? And I'm trying to learn from all these channels, but I was like, my God, it's a lot of synthesizing of knowledge. Whereas if I can go to a place, even if it's just enough to, pique my curiosity, you guys had a report that came out, what's just happening in the macro markets at the moment. I was like, okay, it doesn't require a massive investment for me. I think like awareness is just the first bit. Even if I'm not making the moves, for me to just be aware starts to, okay, cool. Even a guy like me can start to understand, okay, it's as not as complex as you think, just like you're saying about the self-managed super funds,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's giving people the goggles perhaps that they needed to see the things that were in front of them the whole time. Like, because we all have those crazy moments in life, right, where you see something for the first time that's been in front of you the whole time. You're like, whoa, how did I miss this? No, they're the kind of moments that I'm trying to like help people have as well. And I want to have more of them myself too. So there's, there's lots of, biblical level stuff going on, whether or not people believe it. Some of the people in charge of our country certainly believe it and believe they're doing some God's work and all the rest of it, and even if that includes murder and slaughter and theft and all the rest of it. But just why I'm mentioning that is like what you said before, like all this stuff going on in the Middle East. Like there's real destruction happening. Most of it's not making it to the TV of how many of these Gulf states are having their refineries destroyed and all sorts of other infrastructure destroyed. But because it's a tit for tat, right? Iran says, look, we're not going to attack first, but if you attack us, we'll be tit for tat and we'll attack you back and we'll hit you in the same spot. And that's what they've been doing every single time. So they attack, an energy plant in Iran attacks one somewhere in the Gulf. Like it's tit for tat. There's explosions going on every day that are just humongous. And, I feel the need sometimes to go, I want to share this with people as well. I don't want to bombard people. So I usually hold back from sharing a lot of that stuff.
Try and control our thumbs.
In the group. Yeah, exactly. Because it's too much, right? But
yeah.
I'm trying to, my job these days, I guess, is to try my best to identify trends. And this trend is not something that turns around very quickly. It's not like, even if they go, okay, sweet, yep, we're going to create a peace deal tomorrow, like all that infrastructure is destroyed. It's done. Like it's going to take years for a lot of that stuff to come back online, no? So there's going to be chaos in the oil and energy markets for some time, and then it's obviously disrupting other things as well. Then because it's fertilizer, it's food production, it's all sorts of things. So that's where these commodities markets are a thing that reflect that. The stock markets and those markets will take a bit of a hit during this time because obviously those companies, many of them will be having a bit of an earnings hit. For a variety of these reasons, either their input costs are getting too expensive and their margins are getting squeezed, or their customers don't have enough money to buy their products anymore, or a whole variety of things, and the markets are going down. But these other markets out there, these commodities markets, they're not just something for the other people to be able to invest in. Like everybody listening to this can open an account and start trading commodities, and they can start as easily as using their existing bank and opening up a trading account, or there's a whole host of online trading platforms these days that are super easy. You can get up and running in, minutes to days, depending on what it is. There's even crypto-based ones where you can literally be up and running in a couple of minutes and have money in your account and trading. So then people can start looking at, okay, I wouldn't recommend just chucking money on.
I was going to say, don't bet the farm from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. Until you're confident and you understand. Like that's what we're trying to build, right? We're trying to build a platform where we can help people be confident to execute a particular trade and understand the thing that they're investing in first. Not trying to get a handle on every single kind of commodity, but maybe going, there's something going on with this oil and gold. I've noticed lately. So I'm going to start learning about that. And then when I'm confident and the time comes, I'm going to learn about the products that I can invest in. And there's a variety of those. You can start off with just an ETF, like a exchange traded fund. It's a fund that you can buy a portion of that's traded every day on all these big exchanges. You can get in and out whenever you want to get so. And it's a good place to start. You can get access to oil or gold or a whole variety of things. There's mixed funds that are there's mixed commodities funds. If you want to have, I would just like to get access to a bit of a splattering, a variety of things. There's products for that too. So learn about them and start dabbling when you start getting the confidence to do so. And like I said, I say it a lot probably, but don't bet the farm. But start easing your way into investments that you're seeing. Like if you see, I'm trying to convince people too to see the medium to longer term as well. Don't get caught in the day trading side of things. Have a bit of a thesis about, I'm investing in gold because, I was going to say oil. I'm investing in oil, for example, because I'm seeing all this carnage that's going on over there. The world still needs oil. The market price is getting driven up. This stuff's going to take years to come back online. Okay, I'm going to start allocating X dollars per week or month into this oil ETF. And once I'm confident there, and hopefully I'm seeing it grow as well into profit in that time, not just the extra money I'm putting in, but actually the fund is growing. Then I'm going to, in that time, keep learning about how diversifying it further outside of that, so I could look at potential oil producing companies or oil refining companies or oil transportation companies or all sorts of different things, right? You can build up a pretty cool portfolio just within one commodity.
Yep.
So each to their own, but like these are the conversations we need to have, and each person's free and responsible to create their own wealth, create their own portfolio, which is, I think, is exciting. I think other people should be excited about that. I get it. There's a bit of fear when you haven't done this, whatever it is before, whatever it is, this new thing. But once you get past that fear, it's actually exciting. So yeah, try and focus on that part instead.
Yeah. And once you have, like you said to me the other day, it's just like, hey, just $20-$30 here and there, like once you got skin in the game, your mental perspective shifts on everything. You're like, oh, okay, you just put a bit more keen eye on it, like, and I was sharing with you how my mate would, like, in terms of crypto, he just gave me some, or he gave me an NFT because he knows that, like, the moment I have it, I will engage, and I naturally did. But I was thinking about this because I was like making up the website of the 1,000-year plan and just, tinkering on a few things and of what is this about? It's obviously a movement as much as it is a show. And even the concept of like what we're experiencing now, psychologically, societally, physically, is the impacts of what has happened thousands of years ago, right? Like, and so just like commodities, yeah, sure, AI can spit something out real quick, but real life is going to take time, like to learn about these things is going to take time. Like, but this is now sort of seeding the groundwork for, sure, humanity in the show, the 1,000-year plan, but for the rest of your life, right? And like because more and more I'm like, can you afford not to? This is my thing, can you afford not to sort of take custody and ownership of your own life these days, and that'll be a mantra throughout the show forever and in my whole life, is like, can you stay the victim for how long, and say, oh, the world, and it's like, you can, but you will feel the pain, you will feel the pain. And at least if you go down this way, like, yeah, there will be pain. You got to learn. You got to be a neophyte. You got to be a learner. You got to be a student again. But then, at least, like you said, you can hopefully experience the excitement and the joy of being like, oh, I can, hold the reins of my own cart. Like, I think that's an exciting feeling, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and many billionaires, I'm sure most people listening have probably read a book or two of like the stories of how many of them have lost almost everything, or if not everything, and then rebuilt it up again because they had the wisdom, right? Because they actually had a shot and they learnt the wisdom along the way that better equipped them for the next thing. And that's what most people's road will be like with this. But you can do it in a very low risk way, like I was saying before. Like, if you you go and put $30 to $50 into something and just watch it. Just see what happens. You'll learn so much just from watching that, because you'll be so interested in it. And then you'll be more likely to seek out other sources of information when your money's riding on something. And there's a good argument too, I think, to be made at the moment of, people should perhaps contact their super fund and go, look, how exposed am I if the market's was to have a 30% crash over the next 6 months or whatever, or this year? How exposed am I at the moment? And maybe have a conversation with them. Is there an option to park some of this or all of it into a cash alternative that's not exposed to the markets? It's just going to sit and maintain its levels for now. So even if they don't want to go the self-managed super road,
you can understand where your money's been invested.
Yep. Well, exactly. Yeah, each super fund has various levels of risk and growth options in their different funds usually. Majority of them do. So you could actually call them up and say, look, which one am I in at the moment? Because most people probably don't know. And then depending on what each person's preferences are, have a conversation around perhaps shifting some or all of that into a cash alternative or a super low risk alternative until some of this chaos passes. I think that could be a game changer for a lot of people. Like, imagine you've got $100,000 in there, and it takes a 30% hit, and you've got 70. But if if instead you parked it in a cash or a very low risk thing, and you didn't lose anything, we're talking about making profits on all these commodity trades as well. But that's a big one too, of like, protect your capital that you've already got. It's a big one that people need to, learn as well. I've certainly learned that one the hard way a few times. So
don't bet the farm, don't lose the farm.
Yeah, exactly. Protect it. Obviously, you kind of like, you're reaching out, right? You're exposing yourself, going, oh, look, I need to take some risk. What risk am I comfortable with? And hopefully it's an educated bet on something. So you are taking on levels of risk, but there's also certain times where it's like, whoa, I'm just out of my depth at the moment and things look potentially really crazy. So I'm just gonna pull out for now and I'm just gonna park it. I'm gonna park my capital in something that's not gonna drop and it's not gonna go up, and I'm just gonna watch. And I will learn along the way with that one too. And that could be one of the best decisions a lot of people make at the moment with how much turmoil there is.
Yeah, and once again, sounds ridiculous to say, but y'all adults out there, think about your own life, right? Figure out your own stuff and figure out how you're going to manage this. But I think one of these last things that we'll sort of wrap it up soon. But it's like for those that have never been in crypto, it's like like you said, the fear of losing money is real. But commodities, I feel, are very different to the crypto market because like you can lose all your money overnight. Like shit in crypto can just like bang down to zero depending on how sketchy a coin you're investing in, right? Whereas like commodities, yes, they can take a hit and you'll probably lose a bit, but I think it's quite unlikely that if you're putting money into a quite well established either a company or a commodity that it's just everywhere. Sure, it might dip a little. Yeah, your $50 might become 40 or who knows, but you're very unlikely to just lose that all straight away. Whereas like in crypto, that has happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always still going to be people that need these commodities, right? There's a substantial amount of buyers on the world market for all these sorts of things. Whereas, all of the buyers in a crypto token can disappear overnight. So there's no buyers left, and there's just sellers. The price is going one way, But like with commodities, you can look at these really long-term charts with commodities as well, which is fantastic. They have these big ups and downs that you'll see. Like if you go back, you pick a commodity. Likely that it had a real boom between 2011 and 2013 and peaked and then backed off again over many years. And then around 2021, 2022, a lot of them bottomed and started then heading the other way. And you can see the trajectory of that. And you can see, the price of this thing's actually pretty low historically. So even if there's a risk of it maybe going lower, okay, what am I looking at? Yeah, maybe it could go another 10%, 20% lower from here, depending on which one we're looking at. Like I don't want to give specifics, but you look at the upside compared to that, it's a way different risk profile to crypto. No, is it's like I don't know this whole thing. There could be a hack on this project, and it goes from $1 to 1 cent, but while I'm sleeping tonight, that's not going to happen with your commodities investments.
And even just like out of shits and giggles, I just type in, like rubber commodity price, and it's just like, the news that comes up with it is that like, rubber futures near 1 month high, or like, in February it slumped a little to this, and it's just like tires, plastic or sugar, like you said, coffee. Just think of things that you're like, well, that's probably going to be here. They say that during recessions and economic turmoil, they always say, what is it, like coffee, cigarettes, and alcohol or something. People always put
it's currency. Yeah.
It's just like, cool, let me just buy some coffee commodity, just to see what that's like. And I think it's and for me, I think that's just like learning to shift your mind just to a new place, just take yourself out of your norm. And even if you don't do it, just, let's say you lost
pretend. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretend. Yeah.
You could see what that would have been like. And I think, what did you say about like paper trading, of like, even if you're not putting money in, you just pretend that, okay, if I had invested $50 here, you kind of put it on your own quote paper ledger, and then you can look at, well, if I had invested money, it would have gone to this, or it would have gone down to here.
Or even better, actually, a lot of trading platforms offer a demo or dummy kind of account where they'll put in X number of fake dollars for you, and you can actually execute trades as if it was real. Obviously. Yeah, so you can actually follow and learn that way too. So they're quite fun, it was funny, interesting mentioning sugar too. For some reason, when I mentioned Jim Rogers, he's one of the guys that I really look up to a lot as well. Old commodities investor, very wise. Yeah, hot commodities author. One of the things for some reason that stuck in my head since reading that book was like, whoa, you can make like this much times your money trading sugar in 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I want to be able to tell that story myself one day. So in the back of my mind, I kind of loosely look at sugar of all weird things, right? But like at the moment, sugar's used in fuel too, right? So they, at any time, certain countries like Brazil might go, look, we're making a state decision. We're going to allocate X percentage of the sugar crop to ethanol production to supplement fuel supplies. So therefore, there's a huge extra demand from there, less supply for the other markets, potential price rises there in the sugar market as well. So there's all these things to look at. So it's super interesting, I think. Not everyone's going to be interested in it. I get it, but like if you're interested in that kind of thing, it's really fun. Like it's a really fun process to go on, learning about all this stuff.
Yep. Yeah, well, I might sort of wrap it up there because I'll finish it off with those that are interested at all, and are listening to this. Once again, pester Rory on LinkedIn if you want. My apologies, Rory. But or Allcode, I've got it there showing allcode.io if you want to check them out. But like you said, there's many places out there that you can learn. You can get in there. You can have a chat. There's a lot of people that are obviously you can learn from. And I think, like you said, community. If you want to jump into a place and learn with other people, there are a lot of those pathways out there. So
yeah, exactly. There's a lot. People can start. Even there's so many free resources, YouTube, books, whatever. Like it's online stuff or whatever. So yeah, like just start somewhere, and just see where it takes you.
Even just and this is the beauty of AI these days. When we were talking about like fertilizer the other day, I literally just opened up Perplexity and I just asked the question of like, what's 20 top traded fertilizers or companies out there, and show me 6 to 12 months chart. Like, I don't know, just ask a question and then it like shows you all these things. You're like, okay, I didn't even know this many companies exist. I didn't even know that these many differentiations existed.
Yeah, exactly. Another hole to start crawling down that you didn't know existed before. No, but it's like,
my girlfriend's gonna hate it.
Take the headphones off, Kenji. Get back over here.
Yeah. What? No. Make money.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's been able to help some people. Yeah, for sure. Reach out on LinkedIn if anybody wants to. Happy to always help. Or jump onto the website. At the moment, it's free. We're still building out some of our services on there as well. So we've just opened it up for free at the moment. We started with a weekly written report on just some world macro stuff. Added in video options for that now as well, so you can watch, listen, or read it. Then later this week, Jeff and I are going to start with our first our discussion as well, where we're going to break down the report plus also what's played out during the week and anything else we think is interesting to keep an eye on. And then the next phase after that will be actually making those live, where people can jump in and ask questions in real time as well, so we can chat about whatever people in the community want to chat about. So it's fun.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you for the breakdown, Rory. As always, it's been a pleasure. I hope everyone out there listening got some great value out of that, or at least piqued your interest at least to maybe inquire. Like you said, you don't have to go full self-manage at the beginning. You can talk to your existing, self-managed super funds, even get some understanding from them, what's going on. If you don't know your positions, maybe they can share what your position is, and, get a little bit of education as, whether we like it or not, right? Things are going to change in this world right now. So
exactly. And it's your money. So, hold on to it tight.
100%, then it's the money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy food. So
true. Exactly.
Yeah. Anywho,
cool.
Thanks so
again,
much,
mate.
guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Peace out.